Hello viewers and welcome to yet another live-action commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present you with another preview video featuring one of our upcoming Planetfall cycle warlords. To the right we happen to see none other than the third Eldar faction warlord, Talyesin Fharenal, piloted by none other than Pejhmon Kamaie, and situated to the left, having taken up the reins of our Tyranids faction, we have Shirin piloting Old One-Eye, as well as the associated Synapse unit, the Venom Throat Polluter. The initiative token currently happens to be positioned to the right in Pejhmon's hand, and his first deploy action of the game was a Void Pirate to planet number 4, so a little bit of an early game card bonus for him. And on the left side of the table we see a Scything Hormigaunt positioned at planet number 2. It's going to be a 2/2 for 2 with one command icon, which happens to infest whatever planet it's deployed to automatically. In assessing our opening layout of planets, planet number 1 is going to be Ossus 4, which affords you the opportunity to steal one resource from your opponent. Planet number 2, which is now infested, is going to be Elwith, which allows you to tutor the top 3 cards of your deck for any one card that you'd like, add that card to your hand, and put the remaining 2 on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choosing. And planet number 3 is going to be Taurus, which rewards players for keeping their unit count lower than that of their opponent by allowing them to generate 3 resource tokens or draw 3 cards. Planet number 4 is going to be Aatrox Prime. You pick an adjacent planet or an enemy HQ, and you deal 1 point of damage to all enemy units located at that position. And planet number 5 is going to be Planum, which allows you to move a non-warlord unit to the planet of your choice. So, at planet number 3, we see another copy of the Scything Hormigaunt's touchdown that's located at Taurus. It's definitely going to be a desirable early game option for our players. And at planet number 1 for Pejhmon, we end up seeing a copy of the 3/4 Warlock Destructor. You have to pay an additional resource during your deploy phase to keep that in play, but it is going to be of paramount importance to keep those units out on the tabletop, considering Taliesin's ability. When she's present at a planet, anything with the Psyker or Warrior trait gets a +1 HP bonus. And if you happen to have a unit with the Psyker trait and a unit with the Warrior trait, or one unit with both, any unit with either of those traits ends up getting a +1 attack bonus. So if you've got her combo working to the best of its ability, that means that 2-cost Warlock Destructor is going to be modified to a 4/5, which is absolutely incredible. We only see one Warrior unit currently situated on the board. That's going to be the Bealtan Guardians, positioned at planet number 3. They're going to be a 1/1, but they've got that Warrior trait, and importantly, they've got 2 command icons, which is incredibly adept at shutting down the Tyranid economy, because 1 command icon from a Hormigaunt does not even equal a Bealtan Guardian's 2 command icon value. So looks as though our Eldar player is doing fantastically thus far in regard to command. Old One-Eye, whenever he readies, you strip half the damage off of him. He's a 2/6, Taliesin is a 2/6, but Old One-Eye, since he regenerates himself, is going to be far more likely to survive for the long haul in any given combat situation, because even if you benefit from Taliesin's ability, she does not affect herself, and a 2/6 is bloodied relatively easily, and you definitely want to save her for some big decisive battle to try to leverage as much of that numerical advantage she provides as possible. But planet number 3, we see a copy of Regeneration affixed that Scything Hormigaunt's. They're now going to be a 2/4. You can exhaust that attachment to strip 2 damage tokens off that unit. And last but not least, of all extant units on the board, we've got that Venom Throat Polluter. It's a 1/4 with 1 command icon. And when you send it to a planet, you can trigger its reaction to pull 1 army unit, or I believe a token unit, from the same planet as your warlord to its planet. So if you deploy heavily to the first few planets, if you send Old One-Eye there, perhaps to back it up, if you have more units than you end up needing, depending largely upon wherever your opponent sends their warlord, then you can just simply relocate one of those units to the same planet as the Venom Throat, and then they need not show up alongside your warlord exhausted during the following round's command phase. But Prophetic Farseer touches down on planet number 2. That's going to be our new Decree of Ruin Psyker. That's going to be a peek at the top 3 cards of Shirin's deck there, and the discard of any shield icon possessing cards. Of those, we see a Noxious Flesh Borer gone, somewhat middling attachment that can allow you to infest planets, and we also see a copy of Predation, which allows you to spread infestation, also discarded. So a lot of infestation type effects. Hopefully for Shirin's sake, she ends up coming across a copy of Digestion Pool as early as the next turn, because she's already got a lot of infestation tokens present out there on the battlefield. But what exactly are we going to see in regard to the locations of these players. Looks as though Old One Eye is going to be going to planet number 3 to try to contest Taurus, try to win that planet. His unit count is a lowly 7 compared to our Eldar player's 5, but he's going to have to chew through the Bealtan Guardians to get there, and that's going to make our players break even. But planet number 1 during command is going to be 2 resources for Pejhmon. Planet number 2 is going to be our players breaking even. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource there to the left for Shirin. Planet number 4 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource, plus 1 card for the Void Pirate. And planet number 5 is going to be Talyesin trumping that lowly Synapse unit. That's going to be 1 resource and 1 card for the Eldar. But Ossus 4 is going to be captured. That's going to be 1 resource stolen from Shirin, given to Pejhmon. Planet number 3, that's going to be the Scything Hormagaunts ending up destroying that copy of the Bealtan Guardians. They're destroyed. There are an equal number of units in play by both players. That means there's going to be absolutely nothing that we can do in regard to activating Taurus's ability. So that's Taliesin takes a swing at the Venom Throat Polluter. It's going to be 2 damage dropped down to 0 because of the discard of a Spore Burst, and that's going to be the Venom Throat Polluter taking a swing in return at Taliesin, which herself took 1 point of damage, but the Venom Throat Polluter is going to leave. And that's going to be Planum triggered, but where exactly is that Warlock Destructor going to go? This is going to be a fantastic opportunity to bring that unit back into play, positioned at a planet to be ready to contribute its command icon, to contribute to a battle without any need to show up exhausted. So very powerful planetary effect there, but looks as though our players are going through the motion of doing their HQ phase. That's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. We've got a new planet number 1. It's called Elwith. New planet number 5. It's called Karnath. It allows you the opportunity to trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. So, a tremendous wealth there of resource tokens for our Eldar player. He's got 1 green strong point type planet, and what do we see in regard to that win condition on the board here? Looks like Taurus, looks like Planum. If he ends up winning planet number 2 and 4, that's going to be the game for our Eldar player. And dissimilarly, if our Tyranid can somehow win through, like, let's see, if she were to go blue, you could take Elwith, Aatrox Prime, Planum, that would be fine. You could take Taurus, Aatrox Prime, and Karnath, and that would be through red, but it's going to be up to her to try to establish her own victory condition, potentially through blue. That way she could win on planet number 4. That way she could also contest her partner's victory condition on planet number 4. But the initiative token is once again in Shirin's possession, or actually it's in her possession for the first time. So what exactly do we see? We see a Volatile Pyrovore positioned at planet number 1. It's going to be a 3/3 for 3 resources with 1 command icon. So she's going to be able to win at that planet potentially. Bealtan Guardians goes to planet number 5 entirely uncontested. Our Tyranid player doesn't really have much again to do against 2 command icon units. Toxic Venomthrope is, if memory serves, our only non-elite Tyranid with 2 command icons. What's fantastic about that Volatile Pyrovore is that even though Taliesin could ally with Dark Eldar to benefit from effects like Archon's Terror, there's not going to be any kind of Klavex Warleader or anything like that, those loyal cards that can really work around its Interrupt, which, if it's destroyed by an attack, you deal out 3 incredible points of damage to the opposition, which makes it an incredibly dangerous unit, and it pretty much seals the deal for Shirin winning at planet number 1, or at the very least, if somehow something goes disastrously wrong, she can at least break even. But Virulent Spore Sacs are now situated at planet number 3. You can blow them up as a combat action, deal 1 point of damage to all extant enemy units, like that Void Pirate, which has 1 hit point, and you infest the planet. So hopefully we'll end up seeing some infestation token-friendly units. Shrieking Harpy, Hunter Gargoyles. We saw Spore Burst discarded, which would be fantastic to return that Volatile Pyrovore to play, so damn shame that that's already gone. But Spirit Seer Aerithal played out to planet number 4. That's going to be one of scarcely few unique Eldar units, but it's a Psyker, and it has 2 command icons. It attacks for 2, 3 hit points. It's one of scarcely few means of stripping away damage tokens from, say, Talyesin Fharenal. If she goes to the planet, if you attack her, if your opponent shields it, or has her take small amounts of damage, Spirit Seer, who gets an HP boost, who gets a possible attack boost, could attack, strip points of damage off of her, so very powerful little synergistic combo there. Both of our players are deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords and synapse units. At planet number 2, we see Autarch Selachia, yet another unique Eldar option, so the board is full of possible cost payers to fund the requisite cost of Nullify. Autarch Selachia is going to be a 3/3 for 4, sounds expensive, and it is. Only one command icon, but you can pay one additional resource, getting all the more expensive to have it gain mobile or area effect 1 or Armor Bane until the end of the round. So a lot of fantastically powerful different effects there, and let's see how this ends up working out for Pejhmon. Taliesin's going to end up going to planet number 2. That's going to be Taurus. Looks as though he's going for the block. Toxic Venom Thrope goes to Taurus. That'll afford Shirin the opportunity to reel an army unit of her choice to that planet. Looks as though it's going to be the Virulent Spore Sacs, and that's going to be Old One-Eye touching down on planet number 3 to trump that Void Pirate. Cut off that card bonus. So planet number 1 is going to be 2 cards for our Tyranid player. Planet number 2 is going to be 1 card and 1 resource to the right for Taliesin, trumping everything because she's a warlord. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Old One-Eye. Planet number 4 and planet number 5 are going to be a grand total of 2 cards and 2 resources there to the right for Pejhmon. We're going to see battle at planet number 1, 2, and 3, but not 4 or 5. No Savage Warrior Prime, no Keru Arameus or anything like that, but planet number 1 is going to be monumentally difficult for our Eldar player to try to overcome in regard to what he could potentially try to do to win that planet. The signature event for Taliesin is called Path of the Leader, and in assessing my cheat sheet here, it affords you 3 different opportunities for no resource cost. You can gain 1 resource, a warrior trait unit gains 1 attack value, I believe, until the end of the phase, or you can exhaust a Psyker at a planet to move that Psyker to another planet. So a lot of potentially powerful effects there, but let's see how everything is going to break down. Planet number 1, it's a 2/2 and a 3/3 for our Tyranid. The initiative token also happens to be in our Tyranid player's hand, and we've got a copy of, well, just that Prophetic Farseer. It has 4 hit points is what I was trying to say, so it's not going to be enough to be killed by either unit. Our Tyranid player has tricks like Dark Cunning to potentially rely on, where you can use that to basically pay 2 resources, ready a non-warlord unit, and then you're refunded 1 resource if you do that at an infested planet. Looks as though we see another proxied card. That's going to be Mind War. You exhaust a target army unit at a planet where you possess a Psyker army unit. So that is going to be the Volatile Pyrovore exhausted. And our Scything Hormigaunt is going to have the opportunity there to take a swing at our Prophetic Farseer. So a 2/2 and a 2/4 are meeting on the field of Righteous Combat. That's going to be 1 point of damage blocked to the Scything Hormigaunt. Actually, no. So that's going to be a copy of No Mercy played out by Taliesin. So that means that Scything Hormigaunt is destroyed despite the discard of that Predation as shields. So that's going to be 1 less Tyranid present at that planet. And now what are we going to see? That Prophetic Farseer is going to have a hell of a time surviving against that Tyranid, and there we go, it's going to retreat. But it did survive to fight another day, potentially with the bonus of Taliesin. So, Volatile Pyrovore remains at the planet. It wins the day. We can see Shirin is assessing the top 3 cards of her deck, but what exactly are we going to see? Looks as though she decided on something. There's a copy of Dark Cunning and at least 1 other card, exactly 1 other card, being put at the bottom of the deck there. So, Volatile Pyrovore is going to splash into her HQ. That's 1 blue icon for Shirin. That's 1 green icon for Pejhmon. And let's see, we're about to see a conflict occur at planet number 2. Taliesin is now exhausted, but what do the Tyranids not have? Eager Recruit, Gift of Isha, Drop Pot Assault, Infernal Gateway, any number of other effects. Looks like that Virulent Spore Sacs is going to explode. That's going to be 1 point of damage to all present enemy units, and Autarch Selachia, since we have 1 resource open there, could make relatively short work of that Synapse unit. We could see Path of the Leader. Oh my god, so Taliesin, mind, there's a warrior and a Psyker present at that planet, so that means that the Warlock Destructor is going to be a 4/5 unit, attacking for 4, and Autarch Selachia is going to be a 4/4, which you can pay 1 resource into to gain Armor Bane, and that means a dead Synapse unit, ladies and gentlemen. So that's going to be the Scything Hormigaunt destroyed outright by that Warlock Destructor. Taliesin, of course, takes advantage of initiative, steals it, and that's going to be the Venom Throat Polluter, likely doing the last thing it can. There you go, that's going to be a dead a dead Synapse unit, so it looks as though Armor Bane need not have even be purchased. Taliesin, even though she exhausted, it did not matter. That is a dead Synapse unit. That is a victory won by our Eldar player. It looks as though our Tyranid only has 2 units currently in play, and okay, looks like Old One-Eye was going to activate the ability of Aatrox Prime there, but that's going to be a copy of Foretell, negating that ability, so that's going to be Warlord being exhausted because Taliesin was readied at the end of the combat round. It was, the end of the combat round concludes, you ready all your units, then you have the opportunity to retreat, and then you have the opportunity to attack. The battle's over, so Taliesin was ready, exhausted to cancel that ability, and of course Foretell cantrips, you draw a card. We see HQ phase come and go. That's going to be, I believe, Pejhmon with our initiative token. Yep, the planet orientation agrees with me there. Taurus is indeed facing Pejhmon as he fetches that token. That's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for both of our players. Our new planet number 5 is going to be Barless. Last card we're going to see this game, it triggers a random card discard, so looks as though that Warlock Destructor is still situated there in play. That means it's cost a grand total of 4 resources, but it's done a fair bit of work for Pejhmon. So what do we see? There's quite a few damage tokens distributed amongst Pejhmon's forces. If you can manage to win Taurus, that's going to be one ever so valuable green strong point icon fueling his victory condition. Planet number 4, where the planet number 3, where the Spirit Seer is currently sitting, is his victory condition, and potentially that of Shirin as well. So what exactly can Shirin do to try to overcome this crippling economic presence that our Eldar players started to establish on the battlefield? We see another Prophetic Farseer put into play at planet number 1. That's going to be Dark Cunning discarded as shields, Regeneration discarded as shields, and another copy of Regeneration. That is a painful blow. Ouch, that is a lot of fantastic Tyranid cards all gone, and that does not help at all. We see a copy of Brood Chamber put into play in Shirin's HQ. It affords you the chance to pick one of your army units. You pick the keyword printed upon an enemy unit, and you can basically mimic that until the end of the phase here. So, Virulent Spore Sacs goes out to planet number 3. I would have to check the rules, but I do not think Brood Chamber is going to be able to work off of any of the effects that Autarch Salakia can potentially gain through that's gaining through a card effect as opposed to being outright printed. But Toxic Venom Thrope, of course, seated there at planet number 5 is going to trump the Void Pirate that was situated at that planet. So, no longer any Synapse unit present. Old One-Eye goes to Aatrox Prime. He's going to try to take a blast at the Eldar player's HQ, potentially deal off a bunch of damage to those really durable little units there. Virulent Spore Sacs are situated at planet number 3, but planet number 1 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource to the right for Pejhmon. Planet number 2 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Shirin. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Pejhmon, and the same thing goes for planet number 4, 1 card, 1 resource. Planet number 5 is going to be 2 cards and for Shirin, and that's going to afford her the opportunity to infest that planet, but it looks as though our command phase has passed without that event occurring, so just something to look out for all you Tyranid players out there. Looks as though Taurus is going to be won by our Eldar player, and there's another copy of Foretell. Taliesin exhausts. Once again, cancels the battle ability of Aatrox Prime. Very well played. That's going to be another card cantripped, another card drawn. And Foretell, because I believe it costs 0, that is going to be absolutely fantastic. But we're going to see Combat Erupt at planet number 3 as well. That's going to be the copy of Virulent Spore Sacs that was discarded. I can only imagine that's going to be sacrificed. So what are we going to see in regard to damage tokens dealt out here to enemy units? Looks as though we see a Nullify discarded to block 1 damage from impacting Taliesin, but that is going to be 1 point of damage to the Spirit Seer and to the Prophetic Farseer. Note that all of those units do get a +1 HP bonus while Taliesin's present at that planet. Planum is going to activate. That is Autarch Salakia move to that planet. And now Holy Mother of Hell is Pejhmon ever set up very well for his victory condition. I can only imagine that Taliesin herself is going to be sent to Planum once again to drop off all those units, because if you can concentrate a bunch of units on one planet, what do you have to worry about? Exterminatus? No. Tyranids have consumption, which is stripping away 1 unit per planet. That does not sound like an Exterminatus to me, but real talk, even if there was an Exterminatus, I count 2 unique units situated at planet number 2, and unique units are going to be entirely immune to that effect, so feel free to spend 3 resources to kill off a Prophetic Farseer with 1 hit point remaining, you hypothetical Space Marine opponent. But new planet number 1 is going to be Aatrox Prime. Our initiative token is in the hands of Shirin. She's only got a volatile Pyrovore there. She's definitely going to want to win that planet to help fuel her victory condition. She's tried in vain to trigger that battle ability, but it's all going to come down to what exactly our players can do here. So, we see that, yes, so they're talking about the Virulent Spore Sac ended up putting an infestation token on Planum, but as soon as the battle was won by a non-Tyranid player, that's going to be scoured from combat, so it need not... wouldn't have made any difference, is what I'm trying to say. So, had our Tyranid player... Okay, never mind, maybe I spoke too soon. We do see an infestation token at planet number 4. So my sincerest apologies. Very wisely, our Tyranid puts a Virulent Spore Sac into play at planet number 2. A damn shame that that doesn't have something greater than the equivalent of Area Effect 1, because she is going to have to do a whole hell of a lot to destroy the extant enemy forces there positioned at Planum, and Pejhmon is going to have to shit the bed big time to end up losing that planet. But looks as though we see a copy of the signature support maybe played by Pejhmon. I guess we'll have to see if he changes his mind, but Wisdom of the Serpent basically affords you an HQ action. You call out the trait Psyker or Warrior, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you pick one of those army units with the trait you called out, and you add one of those to your hand, and then I believe that you rearrange those. No, sorry, you put them on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choosing. So we do see Wisdom of the Serpent put out. That's potentially going to be at least one use for our Eldar player. Maybe he has something along the lines of a Dome of Crystal Seers in his deck, which would make that dramatically more useful in enhancing the number of cards you dig. I think it would go from 3 to 6. Yeah, I think Crystal Seers only adds 3. So we see the Tyranid semi-equivalent approximation of a recon drones put out to planet number 3. That's going to be the Ripper Swarm. It's a 1/1 with 1 command icon, not quite up to the level of a Beal-Tan Guardians, which is a little bit sad when you think about it, but that's only going to be 1 command icon versus 2, so what exactly are we going to see? Maybe it's our Tyranid player going to send old One-Eye to Karnath, but then again, I'm not sure why you would put the Ripper Swarm there if that's the case. Looks like we see a copy of Warlock Destructor positioned at planet number 1. It's going to be a 3/4 unit. If Taliesin goes to that planet, it's going to be attacking for a possible monumental amount. It looks as though Taliesin did not actually pay for that Warlock Destructor that had been in play, and I think had 1 hit point worth of damage on it, so that's going to be a fresh copy of Warlock Destructor, and that is a Tyranid Warrior, and the card art looks absolutely gorgeous from this isometric perspective here. That's going to be a 2/4 with 2 command icons for 3. So, very plain, very vanilla, nothing special about that unit, no interesting ability, unlike what we see with the Volatile Pyrovore, and let's just keep a careful eye on that Brood Chamber, and I suppose it's going to be our deploy turn is back to Pejhmon here. In regard to signature attachment, we've yet to see the Autarch Power Sword. You affix that to any unit, you give it a +1 attack, +1 hit point bonus, and if it's an arm unit, it gains the Warrior and Psyker trait, which means you can activate Taliesin's ability on demand. But very interestingly, we actually see the Deathly Web Shrine. That's another new Decree of Ruin card. Go out and buy that war pack if you haven't done so already, to all you viewers out there. It's a very interesting ability. It's when you move a unit from a planet to another planet, so something along the lines of Mobile or Wild Rider Squadron or any number of other effects, very Baharoth-friendly support. You basically you exhaust a non-elite army unit present at that planet. Nothing to do with drawing cards, so our players are going to decide where to send their forces. Taliesin ends up going to planet number 1, so just trying to block off the opponent at Aatrox Prime under any circumstance possible, I guess. 2 foretells to shut down that ability, and now a formidable warlord sitting at that planet to try to do the same. It's a little bit of a bold move, but let's see if it pays off. Old One Eye is going to planet number 3, maybe to sneakily activate Atrot. Well, it's going to be gone by that point, so maybe plan him or Barless from afar. But planet number 1 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource to the right for Talyesin. Planet number 2 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource to the right for Talyesin. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Shirin. And planet number 4 is going to be 2 cards for Taliesin plus a card or resource bonus from that Toxic Venom Thrope. So, what are we going to see here? That's going to be 1 resource for Autarch Salakia, and that's going to be the Deathly Web Shrine. Being triggered, that is going to be an exhausted Tyranid Warrior, and that's going to be 1 resource spent, and that is pretty brutal. So it's looking as though if it were going to be difficult for Shirin to try to win at the first planet, it's now going to be all but impossible. And what are we going to see? That's going to be the Warlock Destructor attacking for a whopping 4 points of damage directed against the Volatile Pyrovore. Do we have a 2-shield icon card, ladies and gentlemen? Do we have a Spore Burst? Do we have a Heavy Venom Cannon? The answer is no. And that's going to be 3 points of damage dealt out to that 5 HP Warlock Destructor. That is incredibly nasty. Note that as soon as Taliesin returns to her HQ, she no longer gives that bonus to units. So the Warlock Destructor only needs to take 1 additional point of damage prior to it being destroyed at the end of combat once Taliesin returns to HQ. That's going to be the Virulent Spore Sac, sacrificed at planet number 2. It's going to be 1 point of damage to both of those present units, but a copy of No Mercy preserves that Prophetic Farce here, and if there's anything that Pejhmon does that I like, it is really trying to keep these units alive for as long as possible. So good on you, sir. That's going to be an attack of 4... well, I missed what exactly attacked, but I believe if that was Autarch Salakia, that should have been a swing for 4, because it is a warrior, and there's, of course, multiple Psychers present at this point, so that would have been an attack value bonus, but that Tyranid Warrior is going to be still alive for whatever reason. And there we go. Taliesin can seal the deal there, so it doesn't matter in any case because it's going to be the end of the combat round here. All these units ready. Then there's the retreat opportunity. Then we have a combat turn there for Shirin. She can't take one. Then we have a combat turn for Pejhmon. There's no eligible enemy targets, so that means the battle is won. Aatrox Prime is going to be able to activate, and unfortunately there are no enemy Tyranid targets there, so quite wisely that Virulent Spore Sacs was sacrificed prior to Aatrox Prime potentially blowing it up, and Shirin saved herself 1 shield card. So Old One Eye is going to take a swing at planet number 3. That's going to be a dead Bealtan Guardians. So if there's anything our Tyranid player has done, it has just been ravaging the Traxxas sector of all of these economy units, and that's going to be Karnath 1. So we could see Planum to relocate a unit. That's probably not the most useful effect in the world, but we could also see Barless do a random card discard. So what exactly are we to expect from our Tyranid? Note, I believe Planum should be infested because of that Virulent Spore Sac blowing itself up. That could make a potentially significant bit of a difference during the final round if, say, we were to get a Shrieking Harpy in play. Even though the initiative token would be in our Eldar player's hand, you could still attack with that unit to exhaust all of the non-elite and non-warlord Eldar units at that planet, so a bit of a shame that that was overlooked, especially considering I saw that copy of Predation in Shirin's hand, which she could hypothetically use to spread the infestation there. But what exactly are we going to see? Looks as though we're still trying to decide on, okay, looks like Planum is going to be activated. That's going to be the Toxic Venom Thrope move to Planum, so interesting choice, but let's see how it ends up working out. Old One Eye returns to the HQ. That's going to be an HQ action done by Pejhmon. It looks as though he taps on Autarch Salakia, so maybe he's trying to Morse code indicate to me that he picked Warrior. Okay, looks like he did, so I suppose you have to reveal that card to your opponent, and that's going to be a Slith Mercenary. There's certainly going to be a lot of resource tokens there for Shirin to use, but what exactly is she going to pay for with those during this likely final round of the game? Because it's all going to come down to this. If Planum provides 1 additional green strong point icon to Pejhmon, then that's going to be all he needs to win this game. So the initiative token is going to be in Shirin's, Pejhmon's hands. And what is he going to deploy? He's certainly got plenty of resources. He's got a wealth of warriors and psychers in his deck to keep putting into play. And in regard to Shirin, Old One-Eye kind of plays out few, relatively large, relatively hardy targets. And that's not going to work out too tremendously well when we've seen effects like, oh god, that Deathly Web Shrine. We could see Autarch Salakia do mobility from planet 2 to planet number 1 just to exhaust a unit if Taliesin doesn't feel like it's appropriate to provide her attack boost and HP boost to all of those present units. But we could just see additional copies of Mind War. There are any number of different other effects. We've finally seen that Dark Eldar are the allied faction there for Pejhmon, and I can only imagine that you're going to be running Archon's Terror in a Dark Eldar allied deck. Pretty powerful unit, so I hear. But Incubus Warrior put out to planet number 1. That's 2 command icon unit. It attacks for 3 with Taliesin present. It's a 4/2 for 2. Very nice unit there. We see a signature army unit, the Lurking Hormigaunt. And Pejhmon was kind enough to point it out to me that in doing all these traditional gameplay isometric perspective style videos, not having Octagon as a cheat in front of me, I've spaced that Lurking Hormigaunt only lets you reassign a maximum of 2 damage dealt to it to your Warlord. So even though Old One-Eye can regenerate some of that away, obviously some of the Eldar opposition there is going to be attacking for a hell of a lot more than 2 if that Warlock Destructor, well, I guess there's no longer a Warlock Destructor in play, for instance, but if one were to attack for 4, if you were to reassign 2 points of damage to Old One-Eye, you'd still have to use a 2-shield card just to keep your little Hormigaunts alive. But we end up seeing another copy of the Hormigaunts. We see a Termagant Sentry, a 1/2 for 1 with 1 command icon. When a Termagant token is destroyed at its planet, you can ready it, but that's not going to be happening because I don't see a Gravid Tervagon, I don't see an Old One-Eye. I would bet money that there's no copies of Spawn Termagants in our Old One-Eye player's deck, and we see a copy of Bealtan Guardians situated at planet number 1 on part of Pejhmon there. So a lot of Psychers, a lot of Warriors situated at that planet, and there only stand to be more in time. So both of our players are deciding where exactly they'd like to send their warlords. I can only imagine it's going to be planet number 1 guaranteed for Old One-Eye, maybe if Taliesin wants to be really sneaky, planet number 2, but I would just go to planet number 1 with Taliesin, attack with Spirit Seer Erithal at the earliest opportunity, perhaps to strip off some damage, or attack with Taliesin herself, and I can only imagine that there's going to be a wealth of 2 shield icon cards left there for our Eldar player, but it looks as though our Tyranid only has a total of 5 command icons relative to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our Eldar players, so he's going to win 1 card, 1 resource at planet number 1. Planet number 2, those Slith Mercs are going to win 1 card, 1 resource there for Pejhmon. Planet number 3 is going to be a whopping 3 cards total for Pejhmon. So if there's anybody on Earth, well, anybody in the Traxxas sector, anybody on a Holy Terra itself that can do a ton of shielding, it's going to be our Eldar player. Plus, I hear Eldar players are fond of Gift of Isha, so what exactly can our Tyranid player hope to do here? Autarch Salakia is going to be exhausting, but what are we going to see? That's going to be an attack value of 4 going out to any of these Tyranids, and if we see the investment of 1 resource, that's going to be Armor Bane, but what's going to occur? I can't spy a lot of combat tricks in our Tyranid player's hand, but what exactly is our Eldar player going to have? He could play out a copy of Empower and give all of these units an additional +1 attack, +1 hit point. That's an Archon's Terror. That's going to be 1 Lurking Hormigaunt gone, so that's as close to a kill spell as anybody can get in Conquest LCG, unless you maybe count Theron. That's a little bit better, and Indescribable Horror is similarly better, although more difficult to put into play, since you can pick unique units with either of those. But let's see, that's going to be a swing from the Prophetic Farseer. And what are we going to see? That's going to be a swing of 3 damage. That's 1 of those shielded thanks to Predation, so Old One-Eye is now 4 hit points left. That's another copy of Mind War. That's going to be a non-elite army unit exhausted. That's a Lurking Hormigaunt tapped out because of all those damned Psychers at that planet. Now it's going to be a Termagant Sentry and a Old One-Eye himself to try to overcome all of that opposition. And spoiler alert, I don't think there are enough combat rounds in the world to chew through that many Eldar hit points. But what exactly is our Tyranid player going to do? It's a little bit trivial to even attempt at this point, but let's go through the motions, I suppose. So Shirin is assessing her available options in hand. Looks as though that's going to be a copy of Ferocious Strength played out as an event. That means Old One-Eye gains Ferocious, gains Brutal until the end of the round. That's going to be a keyword, which brings him up to an attack value of 4. Unfortunately, Dark Cunning, not that she has enough resources to pay for it, wouldn't allow him to attack again. We did see a copy of the signature support Awakening Cavern in her hand, which, if it were played, that would have been the opportunity for her to attack twice with the Warlord. That's going to be Taliesin targeted, and a Gift of Isha used as shields is going to shave off 2 points of damage, and that means Taliesin is not going to be bloodied, and that's going to be Spirit Seer Erithal attacking for 3, killing off a Termagant Sentry, stripping 1 point of damage off of Taliesin. That's going to be the Toxic Venomthrope taking a swing at something. The Incubus Warrior is going to be attacking for 4. That is a dead Lurking Hormigaunt, and what exactly are we going to see here? The Beeltan, nope, the Prophetic Farce here. That's going to be 3 points of damage dealt out to Old One-Eye. And at this point, it's looking very desperate indeed. That's going to be Taliesin and the Beeltan Guardians killing off the remaining Tyranid forces, and there you go. That's going to be Old One-Eye bloodied. That's going to be a Gift of Isha, bringing a Warlock Destructor back into play, and possibly a second Gift of Isha, so there we go. That's going to be the game. Victory through Strong Point Icon planet type icons. So congratulations to Pejhmon, and very well played, of course, to Shirin as ever. So thank you to both of our players for affording me the opportunity to commentate this game. Thank you to Pejhmon for providing me with this footage in the first place, and of course, now more than ever, I'm looking for players like Pejhmon, like Shirin, like Alexander Chimadon, and what I soon hope to be myriad others to send in their games so that I can commentate them and host them on my channel, just like this one. But once again, thank you to our players. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, I always encourage you to share this content, because the more likes, the more views these videos receive, more players only stand to be exposed to Conquest, they may give the game a try, like what they experience, join our community, and of course, all together, we continue to send the message to Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Twitter or on Facebook, and if you ever feel so inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant, I would be absolutely honored were you to contribute to my Patreon. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.